All right. Hey, folks, you're listening to Oops Spoilers. This is an Other Girls Media Network production. I'm your host, Elise, and here I have with me Mallory, my co host. And today we're going to talk about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So if you have been on Book Talk, Bookstagram, anywhere where books are sold, essentially, you have heard about this book. It is one of the ones that TikTok made famous, I think. We read it for book club, so now we're gonna talk about it, and you guys get to enjoy the spoils of our literary conquest here. As always. As always, we'll start off with a brief summary reading the synopsis. We'll get into just a quick overview of like our thoughts and, liked it, didn't like it, just kind of to give you an idea of if you haven't read it, maybe if this is something that you'd like to look into. And then we're going to get down and dirty. We're going to talk the discussion questions. We're going to really get into conspiracy theories, whatever we have to say. And then you'll be able to, either be spoiled or not spoiled. We'll give you a heads up. But The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, a life no one will remember, a story you will never forget. France, 1714. In a moment of desperation, a young woman makes a Faustian bargain to live forever and is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. Thus begins the extraordinary life of Addie LaRue and a dazzling adventure that will play out across centuries and continents, across history and art, as a young woman learns how far she will go to leave her mark on the world. But everything changes when, after nearly 300 years, Addie stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookstore and he remembers her name. Mic drop. I mean,
dun, dun.
What a great synopsis, truly.
Yeah.
So, Mal, what would you say your overall, like, just surface level, like, impression was of the book? If somebody's listening before they get spoiled,
Yeah.
what do you have to say?
I thought it was good. It started off kind of slow, but by the end, it was like, this is a book I would put in the same category as Midnight Library. Have you read that?
Mm-mm.
You should read that. If you liked this, you should read that. Same category I put in the Midnight Library. I put in that's like, not necessarily like this, like, self-help book, but by the end, you are like, okay, like, I can do this. Like, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to be a better person. Like, and I'll also admit this. I am swayed by things like that. Put a really peppy song on and put a really sad song on, I'm probably crying. So like, I am one of those people, you might think that you're not, so you don't resonate with stuff like that. But like, for me, I am. So like, by the end of the book, I'm like, I've got to keep living. Like, it's just one of those things. So yeah, so that was my overall thoughts.
Perfect.
What about you?
I think that this is, if you're not into artsy books, you probably won't be into this one.
Oh, good point.
Because I agree with what you said, that it did start off pretty slow. Honestly, I feel like the pacing of this book overall was pretty slow. Like,
Fair.
It's just, because what it's about is, like the synopsis says, is it's really about this girl who's, like, living a super long life. And the book really shows, like, the ups and downs of that. She has a lot of time and she figures out how to live with this impossible curse. And there are a lot of really dull, really sad, really slow moments for her. And then she also reflects on several points in the book on like the joys, just the little joys of living, and like how so much time has given her so many opportunities,
Yeah.
And so truly you almost live life with Addie LaRue. And so you feel like it does when she has that determination in her and goes through her journey. You do kind of feel this like, okay, like if she can do it, I can do it, because you feel like you kind of saw the like highs and the lows. It is beautiful. It's poignant. It's very thought-provoking, very, very deep. It's not necessarily something I would recommend you picking up if you're looking for something, like something super like attention grabby or action adventure. It is definitely, you want to take your time with it. You want to like, this is a good, like, it's raining outside, I have nothing to do, let's sit down and read. Like, it is immersive, it is fun, but it's, like, not fun in the, like, let's go sail the high seas with some pirates, or let's go quest for a magical ring, or anything like that,
It's more thought-provoking than adventure-sinking.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that, let's get into it. Let's answer the people's burning questions. So, if you're listening and you don't want to be spoiled, oops, spoilers.
Now is the time. Get out of here.
put a pause in it, set a reminder for 2 weeks from now to come back and listen to the rest of it once you've had a chance to read. We will be here. We'll be waiting. But let's get into it. Basically, like as the synopsis says, guys, we start with Addie LaRue, and she makes this bargain with the devil. They call it the god that answers after dark. So he's like a dark, evil type of character. And she kind of makes a deal with him in order to like get more time, and that goes south. So she essentially spends her whole life with like not having any roots anywhere, because as soon as somebody like leaves the room, like their line of sight essentially is cut off from her. They forget who she is. And so like it makes pretty much every aspect of living nearly impossible for this girl. And until she meets Henri, which I guess his name is Henry because he's American. Yeah. I think I got used to Henri when we were reading Codename Helene. Yeah. So anyway, Henry, she meets him and he remembers her, and so it's like truly feels like star-crossed lovers, or not star-crossed lovers, but like like it's written in the stars. Like they're meant to be. Because she gets him, she's immune to his curse, which is essentially that everyone has like an overinflated view of him and just romanticizes him to the point where they don't even like, he could like stab him in the stomach and they'd say like, thank you so much, that was so like, wow, what a gift that you've given me.
His curse, I remember distinctly, because if I were to ask for something, it would be what I would say. His curse is that he's enough for everybody. Every single person sees him and they see enough.
Right. So it lends to like a very like, it's like they both ask for something that sounds really great, and we'd all probably be like, yeah, like I want to, like I want to live an extraordinary life. I want to be free of this place. I want to, like I want to be free is Addie's wish. She wants to be free. Okay, what's the freest you can ever be is like nobody has any expectations of you. You don't belong anywhere. Yeah. You're like, as the great American philosopher Katy Perry says, you're a paper bag drifting in the wind.
Literally, yeah.
Then Henry wants to be loved, wants to be enough for people, and so that means that nobody can ever have a negative view of him. Like essentially is like just the perfect epitome, to everyone he's ever met, which is of course like impossible. So they kind of, their curses, they
cancel
like,
each other out.
So they're the only two people in the entire world that like really understand the other person. So do you think, Mallory, that they were truly in love, or were they just trauma bonded, essentially bonded by their circumstances?
Okay, great question. I think that Addie was trauma bonded. She just wanted someone. She was just so happy. I don't think she necessarily wanted someone to quote unquote love her, because let's be real, another Luke. Mm-hmm. Luke and Henry, very popular names, I guess, in books. Luke, the little G god, loved her. Sorry, he did. So she didn't necessarily need someone that loved her, but she wanted to be seen and to feel something inhuman, like to feel some sort of groundingness outside of him, and he did. But I do think Henry loved Addie because he just wanted to be loved. At the end of the day, like Henry's whole thesis is he just wanted to be loved. Addie's was a little bit more than that. So I do think that Addie did not love Henry, but I do think Henry loved Addie.
That's so interesting, because my take is pretty much the opposite. I think that, again, in the beginning, it's like, wow, this is perfect. Like, and honestly, by that point, you're so bummed out for Addie that you're like, dang, this girl, like, I would be so depressed, what I'm saying, if I couldn't have a real relationship with anyone. And so that it gets fixed for her, and it's like, oh my gosh, perfect. And he's cute, and he works in a bookstore, and it's absolutely, like 300 years of like misery makes, like awesome. Love that. I'm glad that this all worked out for you. But I think like the turning point, what kind of took it for me from like, okay, this is like, it's convenient that we end up together, like, and we don't hate each other, so like, great, like, let's just go ahead and be in love, is when we get to the point where we realize that Henry traded all of his time for this curse. So he has like a very limited amount of time from when he meets Addie until his like death date, essentially, because in order to like get this blessing, whatever, he had to sacrifice time. And so Addie realizes that she has like whatever, a few months with him before he's like gonna die. And so she makes the decision to give up her life, to trade her time for Henry. And I think what really would have made that point super clear is if she had actually died. But essentially what happens is she like becomes like fully immortal, essentially to like be in love with Luke. So again, this like, I potentially have lost Mallory. Hopefully she'll come back. But essentially what makes this whole thing really like work is that Luke trades his time that he's getting. Poor Mallory. If you can't rejoin, I could just finish, or we could. Okay, let me finish my thought while I wait to see what she has to say. But she trades her time and basically says, like, I will commit to being with you, Luke, forever. Because she started off, he's definitely the villain. And then as again, like she goes through 300 years of loneliness and he's the only one who knows her and she can have a relationship with. And this is actually, Mallory's going to try to rejoin. So hopefully we can talk about this because I think that maybe that's who she didn't love. I don't know. Anyway, let me just say that I think that they were truly in love, and that's demonstrated by her sacrifice. Although it's kind of convoluted and complicated because it's like, if she was in Luke, as Mallory posited, then was that really a sacrifice to like, okay, I'm going to spend forever, eternity with you? Or was it kind of like a win-win situation? So, yeah. But basically, let me go ahead and just give my score while we figure out the technical difficulties. As far as plot goes, I would say that it was a 3. For me, it was average. It had some really good moments. For the majority of the book, it had some really good moments, but it was a little bit predictable. And not even predictable, just there wasn't really anything going on to predict. But then it had some uneven pacing, right? So like most of that kind of beginning time, it's like you're setting the stage, you're building. It's important because you have to understand like what exactly her life has looked like up until the point when she meets Henry in order to really believe their love story, which I do think is a love story. But yeah, but like again, a lot of it's just like, okay, this has been a lot of pages on how hard her life has been. And it's a little tough to get through. Entertainment value, I put this as a 2, which is like, yeah, it was hard to stay engaged. It had a lot of slow parts. I read it because I had to read it for book club. But it is a super interesting premise. So it's like, it's interesting, but you really have to like keep reading in order to really like get locked in. You know what I'm saying? Like you keep reading because I really like, I want to see how this goes. Like she's gonna meet this guy who remembers her, and like, wow, look at all of these people. Sorry, who don't remember her. I really want to see this come to fruition, and so it's worth it when it does. But it takes a while to get there. For themes and depth, I put this down as a 5 because again, for me, this was a super artistic book. This book was written in order to explore those themes. You know what I'm saying? Like this is meant to be a deep book. It's meant to make you think about like what you would sacrifice to gain the thing that you really want, and like is the thing what you really want that you think you really want, like how far are you willing to go for that? Because the kind of the nature of Luke's like gifts or curses or whatever is like it gives you what you want, like truly he did, but it's like twisted, you know what I'm saying? It's twisted in a way that you didn't originally intend. And so that's an interesting conversation. And then it's an interesting conversation of like leaving your mark on the world, you know, and like how do you do that? How things are happening, folks. We might have a recovery here. Like how do you recover? How do you come back from being forgotten, you know, essentially. Yay.
Perfect. Did you just keep talking?
Yeah, for the most part.
A true professional.
Feel free to, I did, like at one point when I was texting you, I did like, I filled the audience in a little bit. So feel free to cut out whatever. I don't think it was, you know, I made it as unobtrusive as possible. But essentially, I was getting down into like my scoring because I wanted to wait and discuss some more with you before, you know, like I didn't want to keep discussing the book and then have to fill you in on what I was saying because I feel like I was really hitting some things. So, I have given the plot a 3 so far, the entertainment a 2, themes and depth, I gave it a 5, because again, I feel like it's, this book is meant to be read and discussed and thought about. Like, that's what it's for. So that was themes and depth. Spice level, I gave it a 3. They do Addie and Henry and Luke. Not all of them at the same time, but they do have some dalliances. So, this isn't a completely clean book if that's what you're looking for. I don't remember it being like crazy, like graphic or anything, gross, but like it is in there. There is some romance, so be prepared. And then language, I gave it a 2. This was mostly based off of what Mallory remembered about language, because it's been a minute since I've read it, and that isn't always something that sticks out to me, like to the point where I remember it and give it a confidence score. So just go into it with your eyes open and knowing that this isn't Christian fiction. So there might be some things that you don't agree with, that words you wouldn't use, and it's not necessarily saying you can't read it or you shouldn't read it, but it is just a little memo, just a little note, so you can make your own decision with that.
Yeah, I will say it's not Christian fiction, and I think that that's just something that there's even characters that I probably would not have put in there, or as a Christian that you might not have put in there as well. But what I will say is, like, I do think you can take out Christian lessons and values and kind of thinking from a Christian perspective, like some of the themes for sure. Yeah. And I think that's something as Christians, and like I would love to do like a separate episode where we kind of talk about this in general. This is something I've been thinking about a lot as a writer, and there is so much media, and I think we should obviously, reading straight up pornography is not good. Right. There's nothing positive about that. But I think there's just so much media, and like the world, we are in the world. We're not supposed to be of the world, but we're in the world. So I do think there are sometimes things that we can consume intentionally or unintentionally. I didn't know some of the things that were going to happen in this book, intentionally and unintentionally. There are things that we can consume, and I think we should be able to consume it and critique it and compliment it where it should be complimented and critique. And then when we critique it, I think it's also important for us to, if we say this is bad, this isn't what a Christian would do, I think it's also good to think, okay, but what would the Christian do, and not just be like condemning and like, this is just awful. I think that this is in every type of media, not just books, but like everything that we consume. But that's just something, I think we can talk about it in another episode. But I just wanted to add that. Like, I think you can take some really good things out of it, even as a Christian. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, like storytelling, art in general, like it truly is transcendent. Oftentimes the purpose is, for good art, for good storytelling, the purpose is to draw you higher and to... honestly, a good story really illuminates like the characteristics of God in the world. So these are the things that we're striving for. This is the good, and we're fighting against some kind of evil, right?
Yeah.
And so these thematic elements are based in the ultimate divine design of the world. And so you can find those elements and things even in a secular story or something that has elements or goes in a different direction with it than you would go, or, it gets deeper into things than you would want to, or whatever it might be. But like, if you just outright condemn a story because it's not written by a Christian author, or because the intention behind it isn't Christian necessarily, even if you just straight up disagree with it, you're not going to be able to like conversate on those things and reach people, and also like solidify your own understanding of what God has for you, without reading things that are written by people who experience the world differently than you. So that's that on that. I know.
I want to say too, I think I agree with everything in the rubric that you've said. I'm going back and forth about the plot. I think I would maybe say 4 for the plot. Okay. The only thing, I think it had more than some good moments. I wouldn't say it was predictable, but there was uneven pacing. So maybe, 3.5. I'll say 3.5 for the plot. Because like I said, I think it was more than some good moments. And I don't think it was predictable, but it was definitely uneven pacing. Like, I think if they were to adapt this, which the whole world is adapting books now, it would have to obviously not be a movie. It'd have to be a limited series. And I think the first 3 episodes of the limited series, they're going to have to, takes it becomes almost a different story when Henry is introduced, almost. And I think the first 3 episodes of the first 3 or 4 episodes, because limited series now have 8 episodes, and episode 7 is always like the background of like someone's past. But the first 3 episodes, I guess, they really have to focus on like beefing up how she has been seen throughout history and really trying to draw those lines, because another through line of the book is about leaving your mark. And people did meet her and were inspired by her. So that is kind of how she left her mark, which I absolutely love. And they were going to really have to like make that more obvious in a visual format.
Yeah, for sure. So, unfortunately, the time that we have for today's episode is a little bit limited. So, I want to make sure that we talk about the things that matter most. So, I was really going to get down into the weeds of like I kind of think that more than anything, I think Addie was trauma bonded to Luke. I think that was...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that they were truly in love.
Also, we can go a little bit longer.
Okay. Yeah. Well, 11, that's most of that on that is like, I just think that like he definitely was the villain. He definitely didn't have her best intentions at heart. He was entirely selfish in the way that he acted and the way that he continued to act for the entirety of the book. And so I don't think that I would call that love. I think that's an obsession or an infatuation. And
isn't that love? Just joking.
No.
But please don't hurt me.
Spoilerettes in the audience say no. Yeah, no. But I think with Henry, it was like I think that's what made... I was kind of talking to the listeners when you were, technical difficulties, but she really like what makes it a sacrifice for her not to be with Henry and to spend eternity with Luke as like his immortal companion, what have you, is that like Henry was willing to give things up for her. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like, he saw her and loved her, and it wasn't entirely for his own benefit, like, again, he could have had anyone in the whole world and they would have been, like falling at his feet, obsessed with him. Like from a superficial standpoint, that technically is a better relationship. You know what I'm saying? It's an easier relationship. Yeah. You get more of like the like positive of love, versus like something you actually have to work for and cultivate and grow. So I think like their relationship was real because it was human. And so when she gives that up to become like, immortal or what have you, and be with Luke, like she's giving up the opportunity to be with somebody who has something to lose, essentially. Because I was telling everybody, I was like, I don't even really know I'm like, is it a sacrifice for her to spend eternity with Luke? But now thinking through this, I'm like, yeah, it is, because he's terrible. And there's no real value in their relationship because he can have whatever he wants. You know what I'm saying? He has magic, he has all this power. Like he's never really sacrificed or given anything up for her other than like Henry's life, but yeah.
So. Okay, well, I think that is a good point. Something I was thinking about, though, is like, okay, so there was a point where they kind of talked about how Addie would do something and then she really wouldn't think of the concept. So, like, let's say, okay, she would sometimes stay in, like, rich people's homes while they were away and just kind of, like, relax and, use some of their food and use their toiletries because she needed a place to stay. She couldn't go to a hotel because they'd forget. There was a point where she didn't do that, but she did something, and Henry was like, well, you gotta think of the consequences of like when you do things like that. And what that made me think of is like, she is more, she's not human anymore because things like that, and she's like, I have to do this to survive. Like that thought process to me is more of like a god, little g god. Like that is how like the little g gods think. Like, well, I gotta do what's best for me. This isn't gonna work. I'm so sorry that your servant is gonna be whipped because there's no more toothpaste because I used it all, but sorry, like I have to do this. And like she was very defensive. Yeah. And she's right. She does have to do that. Like that's where it's kind of like morally gray, I guess is the term that the youth are using. But I think to me that makes her more compatible with Luke. And I do think you made a good point, because one thing about love, the thing about love is also about, like, you have to make sacrifices. And Luke can't / won't make sacrifices. I think in the forever time that they're together, it could be possible, because I do think at the end of the day, like, I think he doesn't treat any of the other people that he has made the deals with the same way he treats her. So there is something special and different about her, whether that's something that is love connection or not. And then it's also tiny things, like, you know, they fit together perfectly. I don't know. To me, like, those tiny things kind of just showed, like, yeah. Whereas, like, with Henry, I just feel like Henry just wanted to be loved. And, like, when I think about it, I don't necessarily know if that's the right person, like, to love, or, like, you're not, if any, and he literally wanted to be loved by anyone.
At the beginning, not at the end.
Well, yes, he wanted to, well, I think, no, for all he wanted to be loved by anyone, but he also wanted them to intentionally do it. Like, the problem he had wasn't that they loved him, it was that they did it without loving his full self. But I think that even at the end, he wanted someone to love anyone who loved his full self, is what I'm trying to get at. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I think
I do disagree. I really do.
Okay, you think that he didn't, okay, go ahead. Why do you disagree?
I disagree because I think, let's see, I had so many thoughts while you were talking, and of course now I'm like,
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I disagree because I think that's, like, Henry's character arc is, he thinks that, like, I desperately need love. Like, I need anybody to love me. You know, like, I will take whatever you've got. And he realizes that this is a curse because he has things like people making unwanted advances on him. He has he can't have a real conversation with people because they're giving him compliments or offering him jobs he's not qualified for. Compliments on skills he doesn't have. And so, like, I think especially it's like, okay, maybe everybody loves you, but you don't love everybody back. So truly what you need is to grow as a person and find the people that you're meant to be with and be with them. So I think by the end, he's realized this and he's choosing a life with Addie, even though it is a difficult life, because he has to reintroduce her to his friends every time they hang out with them. Like, he knows, you know, like, if she meets his family, it's going to be like, you know, the first Thanksgiving she has with them every year. It's going to be the first Christmas every year. You know, like, that's taxing and draining. And he's willing to do that with Addie when he could do that with literally anybody else. And it would be, you know, like, people would be able to remember that he has a girlfriend. You know, he wouldn't have to like be talking about her like they've never met her, like they don't have shared memories together. And Luke, I don't think he's capable of love because, again, he has nothing to sacrifice or lose for Addie. There's nothing.
I think that's a valid point.
It doesn't cost him anything to be with her. And as far as, my goodness, yeah, just essentially, like, I think Henry makes a choice and a commitment to her and her alone, and I don't think Luke has any obligation to do that. Honestly, I don't know how his magic works, but, like, it seems like if he's making deals with people in order to, like, gain their life, he has to continue doing that in order to continue to have this power, in order to sustain Addie. Like, I don't know how that works. But, like, why is he making deals with people and taking their lives or their souls if, like, he doesn't need to? You know, I don't know. Maybe it's just, like, his thing. But I think your point about Addie and, like, her, like, the choices that she makes where she's, like, over time, she's become just single-minded and focused on survival. And so, like, the example that you brought up, I think they were, like, in a coffee shop and she was just gonna slip out without paying. And Henry was like, no, you can't do that. And she's like, why not? They're not gonna remember, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just not right. And she does get angry and defensive. I think that was like a decision point for her. It's like a portal into, like, this is how you used to think and you don't think that way anymore. But where I disagree a little bit with, like, the she's not human anymore, I think that's a point that had to be made in order for her to end up with Luke and for that to feel like a resolution or the right choice. But the reality was she was still human. She just had this curse that made her, like, honestly, more than godlike. I would say it made her, like, animalistic, you know, where she's just like taking scraps off the table. Like, she's taking whatever she can do to just live. And I think when she's with Henry, she has a choice to not do that anymore because because like she can't, whatever, she can't hold a job and earn rent and pay for things, so like she has to steal and beg and borrow. But it's like Henry gives her the opportunity to write her own story, first of all, which Luke never gave her the opportunity to write her own story or to be remembered. He wants to keep her like locked away to himself in order to manipulate her. And I think Henry gives her like, he's like, I will, like, we'll figure this out together. I'll take care of you. I, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a place to live that you're not stealing. You can pay for things, and, like, we can make this, like, work, and you can come back, essentially, to life again. So I think that's why Addie loves him, is he, like, gives her that opportunity to feel human again, to feel love again, because if you're not human, you don't feel love. And I think like he opens that door, that window, and that's what I love about their love story, is he like shows her what it's like to love again, to live again. And then that's why it's a sacrifice in order for her to go with Luke, because she's choosing to spend the rest of her days essentially as a slave of her circumstances, as somebody who like is not connected to people or the earth or life, is removed from it, and therefore can just be like a parasite, kind of just going through and taking whatever they want. So in a way, it's really Addie's like villain origin story.
For sure.
Right. Team Henry or Team Luke? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
Yeah. I want to just say one. Okay, I'm looking this up. I just want to say like one more thing about Luke. So I think we're saying like same but different. What I'm saying is I think Luke wants people to still love him, but accept his flaw. Yep. I think Luke couldn't care less who loves him. I think Henry wants someone who still loves him and accepts him flaws and all. I think, to me, so what I got out of it is like, you want someone who wants you, flaws and all, whereas I think that and it sounds like you're saying it was more of like, you don't need anyone to love you, you just need to make sure that you care about the other person, something like that. Is that kind of like what you got out of it?
No, I agree with you. He wants somebody who truly loves like him for him, and not just
his
like
whole self. Yeah, which is why I think that that's why he held on to Addie, because like Addie saw his flaws, loved him, well, appeared to love him. I don't think she loved him, but I will say the part that you said about the sacrifice, I think is a part in the column that she did love him, but I still feel like, anyway, that's why he liked Addie so much, is because Addie did, flaws and all. That's what I was saying with Henry. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah. So
okay, let's do one more question. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, okay, cool. Let me see what I have. Addie and Luke's relationship, when did you feel like she stopped hating him? Did they ever truly care for each other, or was it more of a matter of convenience and power?
Addie and Luke now. Okay. We kind of talked about it already, but I'll still say a little bit more, I guess. I mean, I can talk all day. I think that, so I'm not going to sound very like therapized when I say this. I do think that you can love someone and not like, I think you can love someone, but you don't know how to express it, and like it is not the way you show it is not the correct way. But I do think you can have in your heart love for someone. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about, I was talking to my brother about this, and this is just a side note, I said something like that to him, and I said like and because we were talking about like one of my exes from college, and I said, yeah, and like when you don't grow up around love, you don't really know how to express it. And he was like, okay, but you are loved. Like, you have a family, you have a brother, you have friends. I'm like, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about him. And he was like, well, then you need to act like it. And it was just like really funny because anyway, my point is like, I think that there are people, it is possible to love someone, to have love in your heart, but you're not expressing it, you're not making the sacrifice. And I think what it is that you have to, the person who's receiving the love has to decide like, but that's not the way that I want to be loved. That's not how I think love should be displayed, and move away. All of that to say, I do think that after a while, Addie and Luke did love each other. I do think after a while Addie did, because how can you not love and grow some sort of affection for someone if they're the only person who ever notices you, the only person who gives you any type of attention? How can you not?
Stockholm syndrome. You're saying she loved him because it was Stockholm syndrome. That's a scarcity mentality.
But really, it was a reality. Literally no one else in the world until Henry could. So I just think that, like, I think you can grow those feelings. Once again, I'm not talking like a therapy person. I know a lot of people who listen probably like therapy. So this isn't, I'm not using the right terms or whatever, but like, I do think it's possible. I think it's possible. I think it's possible for Luke, even though I think he made a very good point about love and sacrifice. I think it's possible for Luke to love her, but not know how to live it out, express it, because he doesn't have to. And he's never had to before, but I do think he can have those feelings. Like, I think those feelings are absolutely possible. And now, Elise, tell me how I'm wrong.
No, love is a human emotion. So I think he can have.
So you don't think any gods, like little g, can have emotion, like have love?
I don't think so. I don't think he's capable of love, and I think I don't think in the book he a single time made a choice that was motivated by love and not by.
Even when he got her the house?
No, because that was a way to keep her close to him. That's a manipulation tool. That's I'm infatuated with you and I want to play house with you. So boom, bam, shebang, here's a house. So, because as soon as it didn't work out, what happens? It burns down. So as soon as she's mad at him, as soon as she expresses any kind of contrary opinion, as soon as the little like picture perfect dollhouse mentality doesn't work out, it's gone. So I just think that Luke and Addie, like, there was nothing about him that Addie actually liked. Like, other than his appearance that he took on because of her drawings. Like, there's not anything where it's like,
he was a provider.
No, because again, like, the appeal of a provider is like, you are sacrificing something, you're giving something in order to take care of me. Like, there is something that you are not able to do because you're providing for me. And like, if it doesn't cost you anything to buy me a house, then like, that doesn't mean anything to you. Yeah, like, and that's the whole, like, not to get into politics, but that's the whole, that's why capitalism works, is because like, if you pay for something, if it costs you something to obtain something, it's valuable and you treat it with respect. Like, yeah. So Luke doesn't have to sacrifice anything in order to provide for her. He doesn't have to sacrifice anything in order to like do a nice gesture or be thoughtful. And like, I just think he doesn't demonstrate in the entirety of the book like an ability to connect with her on an emotional level. It's always that he's been around people for a long time. He knows what humans do for each other when they're in love, and he manufactures that. He manufactures his behavior in order to match the relationship standard that his obsession with Addie requires. And so, sure, there's a house. Sure, there's flowers, but he's never expressed empathy for her position. He's never offered to remove her curse. He has never actually done anything that would cost him what he values, which is human souls and, like Addie's time, like company.
But he values her time and company. No, I'm just joking.
He will not give that up. Even though he could break the curse and he could free her and he could sacrifice that because he loves her, he doesn't because he doesn't love her.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. What you're saying makes sense.
Everybody to go down in the comments and tell Mallory to go to therapy. No, but anyway, I added up our scores for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and our TOG score comes out to a 3. So this is
probably right. The only thing is, like, I feel like from like that conversation we just had, I don't like, what other book makes you think like that?
I know.
So I feel bad saying a 3, but like, if she could just have done a couple things differently, then maybe it would have been a little bit more than a 3. But
yeah,
we had was such a good, valuable conversation.
I know, and that's the big takeaway, I think, for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And there are whole discussions that we didn't even have here, like the whole, like, the subplot of like leaving your mark on the world and like the power of art.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that.
I
Maybe we'll do a
know.
part 2.
Yeah, we'll get into it. It'll come back. I'm sure we'll reference it in the future, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like again, this is a book club book. Like this is a book that you read, you think about, you bring to your friends, you make them read it, you talk about it, like talk the bejesus out of this book because it is so rich and like in depth, and like you can have so many different opinions on it and so many different thoughts, and it just like it covers such a wide scope. So it's a beautiful book. It's artistic truly, but art sometimes like art isn't for everybody, and or like it kind of carries
season.
Sorry,
I will say it's not for everybody in every season. Like sometimes maybe you just want to listen to a bunch of true crime thrillers that don't make you think.
Yeah, well, and I wouldn't even call that art, but I'm just saying like what makes this book really thoughtful and in depth is kind of like it goes through her life, like you're there for these moments. And so like sometimes life isn't high on the entertainment scale, like sometimes life doesn't follow a cohesive plot. Like sometimes things happen and it's just chaos, it's just messy, it's just boring, it's dry, like it is truly the human experience in a book. And so I think the reason that reflects low on like an entertainment podcast rubric is because like that's just kind of real life. Like that's just how the cookie crumbles. And I think it's masterfully done to the point where the book reflects real life and the human experience. And like that's why it's not a 5 out of 5, because most of the time like life is not a 5 out of 5.
Ain't that the truth, sister?
So that's my thoughts, my interpretation of it. But anything else that you want to say before we close out?
No, I think you kind of said it. I really, really wanted to get into the leaving the mark part, but like honestly, like I need to time things better. We'll have to do that another time. I truly want to talk about that because like I said, this is a perfect book for discussion.
I know.
That's it. All I have to say.
All right. Well, listen, hopefully eventually, folks, we'll get into the art discussion and all of the deep, beautiful meanings of life. But oops, spoiler.
Bye.
Bye.